look, I mean, we're just going to go through, for the benefit of our audience, what your background is. We'd like you to give us a brief background on yourself. And then we'll talk about the book. And lastly, we will just talk about the industry in general, because our audience is mainly people that are in the built environment, in construction as well, if that's okay with you.
Okay. Right. I'm a retired civil engineer. I spent most of my life in municipal engineering and ended up as the engineer in charge of the engineering department of the Cape Metropolitan Council.
Okay.
And since retirement, I've developed an interest in engineering history, and I presented many talks to various institutions, the University of Cape Town, summer school, and so on, and I've written down some of these experiences in the book that I wrote.
Okay. And that's...
Professionally, I'm an honorary fellow of the Institution of Civil Engineers.
All right.
And I've served on the various committees, and I was the first chairman of the History and Heritage panel,
All right.
which I'm still a member of, but I've passed on the chairmanship.
Okay.
And I wrote one other book that was published, which was the history of the big consulting engineering firm called Denham Shand, which was published by that company, which is now called Oricon. Might be a client of yours, I don't know. That's more or less my background.
All right, thanks. That explains it then. That explains your interest in the book, because I bought the book on Friday and I read it. I'm sorry I haven't finished it, but I got a gist of what the book is about. And I want to tell you my first impressions of the book. I must say, when I read the preface, I thought it was just, you were just celebrating consulting engineers more than anything else. Because on the preface you're talking a lot more about engineers. I didn't realize that you also, but as I read the book, I realized that you also spoke about non-engineers that were involved in the process of getting other projects done as well.
Really, there are a couple of non-engineers that appear in the book because, as you said, they started the process and they were part of the process.
Yes.
And I think it's something we have forgotten about in modern South Africa, that the client engineer, which developed in my time, and I regard myself as retiring as a client engineer more than a municipal engineer.
Yes.
We've forgotten this particular branch of the profession. And the people who hand out the work and describe the work and so on are very often not engineers and don't know how to do it. We're losing out on good specifications for work because it's simply handed to a consulting engineer without a proper specification.
Yeah. Look, I particularly felt aggrieved because I come from a construction background. I worked for Greenacre at some point.
Hey.
So my interest is more into the contractor more than... So when I read your preface, I thought, geez, okay, he's not going to talk about, construction guys. He's only going to focus on consulting engineers and the client engineers, as you said. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised when I read in some of the stuff you actually do celebrate some of the guys that were, they were contractors mainly. They were not engineers, but they are the guys who made things happen on site.
Well, of course, yes. I mean, up till the end of the Second World War, the contractors were a very small part of the industry. And the engineers designed and built their stuff themselves. And so I came in at the end of that, and my early jobs were to roll down the departmental work, which has all but disappeared these days, and it's all done by it. But I always tell the various people that I have touch with, which is one of my other present duties, is to interview people for professional status.
You
have to be kind to contractors because they're the people that do the work. Without contractors, the consultants and the clients and all the people that benefit from it are nothing, because the contractors do the work. And it was very much a case when I started out that the consultant thought he had to run the contractor into the ground. Which always upset me, because they're the people that produce.
I mean, without the contractors, you only have drawings. You don't really have the stuff, because the contractor has to make that happen. You know, whatever it is on the drawing, he has to make sure that it comes out of the ground. If in that case.
Absolutely. And take the risk mostly too.
Yes, that's true. But then
get credit for.
Yeah, sure. Then
as you know, in business, the profit is in taking the risk. The more risk you take, the bigger profit you get.
That's true.
If your risk are more.
Yeah, that's true. But then it's just you know, for the benefit of our audience, what are you aiming to achieve with this book? You know, when you wrote this book, what were you aiming to achieve?
Well, first of all, I don't think people know enough about the history of many of the engineering projects in this country. And although some of the older ones are written up in some books, some of the more modern ones will be forgotten about unless we write them up now.
Yes.
So I put that down, and I thought they were interesting to the general public, and it appears this is the case. And the other reason was what we've been discussing already, that it's necessary for the general public, and more specifically the decision makers, to understand what makes engineers tick, and what sort of people they are, and that they're not just slide rule pushers as they were in my time, or computer button pressers as they are nowadays. They are people with innovative and imaginative ideas, and they can add to the comfort and well-being of the general public, and improve the economy of the country, which is a huge basis. And I think it starts in the book with the very first mountain pass, Solari's Pass, which had a huge impact on the economy of the colony at the time, and the modern civil engineering projects just as much so. They make an impact on our economy to the better.
All right, okay. But then the one thing I must compliment you about, when I first heard about the book, I thought it would be a technical book, you know, a book for engineers or people that are involved in the inner. But when I read the book, there's not much technical about it. You know, anybody can read. You don't have to be in the industry.
That was the intention, yes. I wrote it for my wife and for other ladies and for other people that are not engineers, to tell them what engineers are all about, as I said earlier, and their imagination and their bright ideas, which lead to interesting projects.
All right, okay. But then, who should read this book? I mean, do you think our politicians should read this book? And, you know, politicians and decision makers, so that they can be inspired, because it feels like...
I hope so, yes. I don't know whether they get around to reading books like that, but it certainly was an intention of mine that the politicians and other decision makers could be a bit better informed about what engineers do.
Yeah.
And that they would then make better decisions, because they understand and they trust engineering ideas and brains and so on.
Yeah. No, I think they should read it, because I think it also, I mean, some of the politicians you mentioned there, they were brave, you know, they went against the tide to make some of the decisions happen, and I don't think we have that anymore. You know, in this day and age, politicians don't act such a big role, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, they are the decision makers still, and sometimes they take decisions against the advice of their engineers.
Yeah.
But this is what we're trying to say, that engineers are skilled people and imaginative people. When shortly after I retired, I went with Alison Lawless, you might have heard of her. We attended a what do you call it, committee, committee at the Houses of Parliament, and they asked us, what's the difference between an engineer and a plumber? I don't see any difference between them. And this is where you sort of say, well, if you don't know that, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. That's a problem.
You must understand that engineers are skilled people and have a particular bent towards doing things efficiently to the benefit of people.
Yeah, no, that's true.
We find this a lot with young people these days, that they enter civil engineering not necessarily because of the interest in the subject itself, but because they believe that they can benefit the people and the nation by being civil engineers. And I think it's a very worthy idea.
It is. I agree with you. But then, how long did it take to put this book together? Because it's very detailed, I must admit. And
well, it took quite a long time, but that was for many reasons. I started it, and then was asked to write this book for Ninam Shand, and that took me 3 or 4 years. So the gap between starting the book and finishing it was a considerable time. And yes,
will there be a follow-up book with recent projects?
People are asking me that. When I started writing this book, a very well-known person said to me, "Listen, you mustn't put everything in the first book because you have something over for a sequel." So we'll have to see about that, to see whether I've got the time and the energy to write another book. But people are being very complimentary about it, and maybe there should be something similar.
I think there is a reason for another book, I must admit. I haven't finished this one, but I can tell you now, I really think there's a reason for another book.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's very gratifying that people are enjoying it and look, asking for more. I've got to find out more things that I can write about. The things I wrote about were the things I knew myself. People that I knew.
Okay.
And that's another reason that these days you can have a well-known engineer or an engineer that's done something very special living next door to you, and you don't know that he's done it, you know anything about it. And so there's some engineers in the back of the book there, in the later projects, that people know them, but they have no idea what they were involved in when they were working. And so that's another bit of a story. You've got these people, you can tell stories now and they won't be with us forever. So we've got to write down their stories while they're still around.
Yeah, no, that's true. In fact, that was my next question. To ask you, do you think we have visionaries today like we had in those days when the history wrote today, and are we celebrating them enough?
Well, yes, it's interesting, but of course, what has happened, the visionaries, the one man, the Thomas Stewarts and the Charles Mitchells, and the various other people that you might have read about, they did the job themselves. They were in charge, and it was entirely their ideas and their force personality. These days, a major structure is a team. And you can't. It's very difficult to pin down one engineer. And in fact, the publisher wanted me to write one engineer per project. And some of the ones, the Chapman's Peak job and the Shark Rock Pier job and so on, are a product of teamwork.
Yes.
And so it's difficult to say that one person had a brilliant idea when sometimes it was sitting around a table and bashing it out by teamwork.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, that's true. So it's difficult to pinpoint one person out of a team.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I say graciously, some of the people in the team said, "Okay, we'll make this person the person that you're mainly writing about." But I would have liked, as the book evolved, to change the format to teams of engineers or more than one engineer, and they appear there, but they don't come out in the sub-chapter headings as if they were responsible, the other people, the other members of the team.
But then coming back to the industry in general, do you think we're doing enough to attract The new generation, I call them the iPad generation into the industry.
Yes, that's a good name. Are we doing enough?
Yeah.
It's very difficult. The youngsters are interested. Of course, and that's what I'm trying to prove in the book too, is they may well have maths and physics for matric, which is a requirement to go to university to do engineering.
Yeah.
And we don't have enough of those people with sufficient education to get into university to perform this massive work that we require in this country and in Africa generally. But having said that, we had a huge influx of young people around about 2005, when the industry was really busy because of the World Cup stadiums and such like. And since then, the cyclical nature of the industry, it's been in a down cycle, and young people are graduating and not having work in this country.
Yeah.
Which is very upsetting, because there's place for them, but they haven't made the places in the government structures in the municipalities. They're beginning to realize that they can't do without engineers now. But young people are immigrating because they haven't got work in this country. And that's very disappointing, because the need for them is here, but
yes.
the work isn't let out.
Yeah.
Which is something that government and the public sector itself should look at, and something that I think the contractors are very keen on, that there should be a more even release of work, that there should be 5-year, maybe even 10-year cycles or planning, to make sure that the big work doesn't all go out at the same time, and that there's a constant stream of work for contractors and for the engineers, the consulting engineers, the designers, which is badly needed in this country, but probably needed everywhere. I don't know whether any country has a decent 10-year program, because it needs to be about a 10-year program, because engineering projects take that long to carry out, to plan the work so that the release is over a period of time regularly, instead of all in one go.
Yeah,
we used to find at our level in our municipality that one tended to want to put out all the contracts at the same time, and the contractors would be upset and say, we haven't got time to prepare the tenders. We had to do that because the budgeting was such that we had to get out or spend our money by the end of the budget year.
Yes, yes.
And so everything went out. If the budget was approved in July, we wanted all the work out by August, September, so that it would be largely spent during the summer months and finished by the end of the financial year. So everything went out at the same time. The contractors complained. They had every right to complain, and we should have done something about it too. But again, we've got the politicians and not the engineers making the decisions. And we're saying, let's do this over a 3-year period or something like that. That we can put out the tenders at different times, because we'll get better prices for it.
Yeah.
The chaps aren't all working together.
No, that's
true.
true.
We're spending a lot of time now, as you might know, tendering for consulting work, which is very time-consuming, tying up a lot of engineers in tendering for jobs they don't get, and spending an awful amount of money on them in some of these biggish jobs, and not even the very big jobs. In some of these biggish jobs, the consulting engineers spend $500,000 on their bid.
And they're not even guaranteed they'll get it.
And they don't get it. So every time they get a job, they're probably going to pay for 5 other jobs that they tendered on and didn't get.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is a big waste of money. And I say, to my mind, also a waste of time for the engineers that prepared those bids and couldn't, they were to no avail.
No, that's true. Look, I mean, in my involvement with recruitment as well, I also find that the youngsters also prefer cushy jobs. You know, I mean, construction is not a it's not a cushy job. We find the ones that have the opportunity to be in construction, they actually want to leave. You know, they go for better jobs like working at the bank, or because bank do employ engineers sometimes.
We've long had this problem that engineer wears jeans and the real businessman, he wears a suit. And they want to wear a suit. They don't want to wear jeans and a t-shirt when they're on the job. Because that's the image they have of engineers.
That's true. And it's sad because it's very interesting. But some of them, as I said, I call them an iPad generation because that's all they're interested in. Anything to do with computers. But the real stuff what happens out there.
Well, to get back to the book, I was trying to point out all the time that imagination and lateral thinking was all part of the engineer's job, and if you're into that, then you can be a good engineer.
Yeah.
But so often, as I hear these young people, we ask them, they come for professional interviews for professional status, and you ask them, why did you get into engineering? I was good at maths and science, that's it. And you say, what about imagination? What about your left side of the brain? Do you like designing things?
Yes.
Can you design anything? Can you design a bridge? Can you design a Christmas card? Can you design anything? You've got that feeling, then you're okay. You have your right side of the brain. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
They don't know. You say, oh my goodness, so you can do maths and science. Why don't you become an actuary or something like that? You would have to
and make more money.
use your imagination.
That's true. And I mean, if that's your only calling, if you're good at maths and science, there's other careers I can think of where you can make a lot more money than just.
Precisely. Yes, when I announced I was going to become a civil engineer, which was at quite a young age, another very famous engineer at the time said to me, young man, you're going to have a lot of enjoyment in your profession. You'll never get rich. You'll make a comfortable living. You're going to have a lot of fun in your job.
That's true.
And I think that's what we try to preach to these young men too.
But don't tell them they'll never be rich. Don't tell them they'll never be rich because then they won't come to the industry. Because everybody wants to be rich these days. But then thanks Tony for your time. Lastly, where if anybody needs your book, where is it available? Is it online?
I believe it's available at most of the big booksellers. And it can be got through from the institution as well. Okay. But it's certainly on display at the biggest booksellers that I know. We've been selling them, I say, quite well, so it is available.
And is it available online as well?
I haven't seen whether it's available online. In fact, I must talk to the publicist a bit later today and see what he's doing about it, because one would expect it to be online.
Yeah.
And as I say, it certainly is selling well. So one would think that the online companies would be after it as well.
Yeah.
So I haven't found out yet, actually.
All right. Please, will you be in Joburg soon? Are you traveling to Joburg?
I don't think so that I have a plan at the moment. In fact, I had an invitation today to come to Joburg later in the month, but I won't be able to make it because I've got a date in Cape Town on that particular day. But yes, I might well be coming up for something later.
Will you let us know, please, when you're here? We would like to meet up with you because, as I said, I really like your book, and I think there's a lot we can
fine. We'll enjoy it. I'm glad that you're enjoying it, and I hope lots of other people enjoy it too. As I say, there's a reason for writing it behind it, but I hope it just reads well and people read it for the pleasure of the stories in it.
That's true. Thanks. And then we're looking forward to the follow-up, eh?
Okay, well, I'll have to see what I can do.
Yeah, no pressure, but we're looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you.